Hello, everybody. Let me set my view here. Okay, it is on speaker. Okay. Hi, guys. Allie Doucette here with Holly Buhler. Today, we're talking about money personalities. This is something that came up in the Facebook group some weeks ago, probably 2 weeks ago now. My Facebook group is Intuitive Healing with Allie Doucette, and people were talking about money and how they relate with money emotionally. And Holly said, don't you know that this all has a lot to do with your money personality or something to that effect? And she said, why don't we have a real talk about this? And I thought that sounded really fun. So here we are. Everybody who's on this recording live just took Holly's money personality test. And I'm going to put the link below in the, the area below the video. So go and check it out and take that quiz and then come back. Is that right, Holly? Or should they keep listening and then, okay, take the quiz first and then return. And we're going to talk about you and your money personality. But everyone live already did it. So Holly, take it away. What are we doing?
Okay, so I'm super excited. This, again, one of my favorite topics, because when it comes to conversations around money or how people behave with money, it's really easy to judge either way. And I used to judge myself terribly when it came to money. And I would compare myself to other people. And it was almost always the first archetype that I'll talk to you guys about. I used to always compare myself to that. And it actually traumatized me more. It did more conditioning and more, internal damage, because it was like almost the complete opposite of how I naturally was wired. So super excited. If you're live, go ahead and let me know in the chat, what is your top money personality? And then can I go ahead and screen share? Do you want to?
Yeah. Can you?
Can you click on my name and give me hosting capabilities?
Yes.
And if you are talking about being like a projector or something like that, that is human design, and that is different from this. So hopefully that clarifies that. Cool. Okay, so we have some alchemists, we have romantic. Do you want to tell us, Allie, now what yours is, or do you want to wait?
I got an accumulator.
Okay, awesome.
So, and then I'll put the link in the chat in this live recording. Cool. Go take that quiz as we're talking, guys.
Okay, I'm going to screen share now.
Oh,
can you guys see the candle one? Can you guys see the presentation?
Yes,
I can. Cool. Okay, cool. So, here is the link if you want to take it really quickly, and then it's going to give you your top results. However, your top 3 are actually really important, but for just today, we'll talk about these in relation to your top. So, I use personalities. These can be talked about as archetypes. They're interchangeable. I am a certified SMA coach, and so I'm able to talk about these and coach with these. And I love it because it gives me a baseline of how to talk to people. So the first one that we are going to talk about is the accumulator, which is what Allie is. So they all kind of have a nickname, and this one is the inner banker. So their gift, their purpose is eliminating respect and appreciation. So outwardly, they can look like this match made in heaven when it comes to money, because they're going to have a tendency to have money come in and then hold it. They can be naturally really good with the money. They can live within their means. They can, however, find themselves worrying about spending. So these are the types of people that can have anxiety about, maybe they have plenty of money in the bank, but when it comes to putting that credit card, well, not the credit card, that would cause them great anxiety typically to be using credit cards. But they
literally have never had a credit card in my whole life. I don't even know about it. I never got one.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah, the
right?
idea of a credit card makes me want to die. Like I would never get one. I can't imagine being in a position where I would allow myself to get one. That's very true. And it has been true since I was a child because I moved out when I was 16 and still I never got a credit card.
Wow. Okay, totally. Classic accumulator moment. So, but so the relationship with for them, and I love that you said that about in your childhood, because this really is how it starts, is you will have a natural way of relating to money, a natural way that you interact with money. And it's neither good nor bad. Each one can be out of balance, and each one can be totally in balance and have amazing gifts. So their challenge is to get to a point where they can trust that there are unlimited resources out there, and get to a point where they can actually kind of invest more to create better wealth. So, maybe spending a certain amount of money if they're in a business on marketing because the ROI is going to be beneficial to them. Real panic attacks can occur when spending really any dollar amount. It just depends on where their thresholds are. So again, these self-imposed limitations can stop them from doing the things, putting money out there in order to see a bigger return. So I'm curious, let us know in the chat if this is your top one. This actually came up in the group because someone posted about how they felt about somebody else's money choices. And the question, I think, was something around like, is this a block? Is this a judgment? Or, what is this? And it's like, well, you may inherently, I had a feeling the person had accumulator in their profile, and they did. And so it becomes embracing your baseline and then working with it to expand. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. And I'm just going to fly through these because I know that we need to be done so that you can move on to stuff.
It's true. I have an appointment at 10.
Yes. So forgive me if I talk fast. You guys can like slow down the YouTube speed and pause if you need to. So the alchemist, I saw a few of you that had the alchemist. I'm super excited. They are what we call the inner idealist, and they illuminate positive change. So they can have this love-hate relationship with money. They see the good that money can do in the world, but they can also see how money can, a lot of money can be in the hands of not great people. And it can seem unfair. It can seem out of balance. Their motivating factors is really creating like this altruistic type of situation. So they have really good intentions. They want to transform people. They want to transform the world. They want to make it a better place. But because they can find themselves kind of having these like judgments towards people who have money, or, what some people choose to do with that money, that blocks them. And so identifying these help us to identify what's actually a block and what is an inherent gift or ability. So I'm curious if this resonates for you alchemists out there. The celebrity. Okay, so this is secretly one of my favorite ones, just because I think that in our society, it gets a lot of flack. So I have kind of a tender part in my heart for them. When a celebrity lets go of the judgments that society kind of portrays or puts on them, they really can embrace these gifts and then create big impact. So we call them the inner big shot, and they illuminate impact and recognition. So these are naturally charismatic people, and they have an ability to kind of like magnetize things, attract people and experiences. I liken this to some of those like nonprofit type things will do this. They will embody this archetype, by hiring like an actual celebrity to bring attention to their product, or like I'm thinking about like Sarah McLachlan when she used to do the song for like the animals video. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those like pay a certain amount to support like a child in Africa type of thing. So this can be used for good because the celebrity has this kind of aura about them that brings this awareness or this recognition to something. The celebrity can find themselves kind of embodying the typical like celebrity archetype or the stereotype of spending a lot to get a car, or spending a lot to get a phone, spending a lot to get a bag. And if they're out of balance, they can actually find themselves really overspending and either finding themselves in quite a bit of debt or in some financial troubles. And they can also find themselves having somebody to kind of support their lifestyle. They typically don't connect a whole lot with money. They typically don't pay attention to it unless it's like money coming in, but they may struggle actually to pay attention to what's actually going out. So I'm curious if there's any celebrities here, let us know. When the celebrity gets into balance, it's really a beautiful thing. So just putting it out there, that's my soapbox. If you're a celebrity, please don't judge yourself. There are so many gifts here. We can definitely work through it. So the connector, we call this the inner relationship creator. And they illuminate faith and optimism. This is a type of person who they're really relationship based. So they really care more about people and relationships rather than money, what's going in, what's going out. Because of that, though, they can become disconnected from money. So this optimism that there will always be resources there can cause them to just not pay attention. They can also find themselves blindly trusting other people. So this is a type of situation where you could see someone who has like a business and they have an accountant that they trust. And 5 years down the road, all of their money disappears from their business because they blindly trusted the person to do what they were supposed to do. And maybe the person made a mistake. Maybe they did it on purpose. That's the kind of situation that connectors can find themselves in. Because they don't naturally connect deeply with this money situation, it can create feelings of inadequacy and disempowerment. And so the trick here is to combat that and work on that connection with money to come into balance. The next is the maverick. This is the inner rebel with a cause, and they illuminate that risk is essential. I have a soft spot in my heart actually for all of these, because for totally different reasons, they all need to be loved and embraced. This is another one that can potentially get a bad rap. Really, I think anything but the accumulator gets a bad rap sometimes. So these people have great skill in looking at like the ROI. They have a great skill for numbers, kind of like, I call it finagling. This is a person who will like, oh, if I sell this car at this time, I'm going to make this much money back. And so maybe they see a lot of turnover as far as like cars. Or if I buy this antique furniture item, then I can sell it here and da da da. So they can also work with complex numbers and contracts type things. And they just have this gift of seeing how the numbers need to work in either their favor or their client's favor. So this is a stereotypical someone who works at the stock market, right? The maverick is going to be able to kind of do those things. Whereas like an accumulator, that might cause them a panic attack to like press a button on $1 billion deal and be like, oh my gosh, what if I get it wrong? Whereas the maverick, like it lights them up. When the maverick is out of balance, that's where we can see gamblers. And so that's really insightful too. So if we can kind of meet the needs of the different personalities, we bring them into balance. And it's kind of challenging to do that when we don't know what their needs are. So I think that's all I want to say about that for now. And then the nurturer. They are the inner sponsor, and they illuminate caring and compassion. So these people are relationship based too, but it's a little bit different. This person is kind of, their currency is more meeting people's needs. Whereas the connector wants to have a connection relationship. This type of person loves to help take care of people. So their desire to be of service can cause them to really like share too much of themselves. This is like your typical overgiver. You know, it's the person who, you know, in business, and someone comes and says, hey, can I hire you for X, Y, and Z? And they're like, oh yeah, but like, let's totally give you a discount. It's okay. Oh, you're in a bad financial spot. Here, I'll just give it for free. So they can really find themselves depleted if they don't work on those boundaries and they don't hold the line and take care of themselves first. So this type of person can find themselves in precarious money situations because of that overgiving and not making sure that they're taking care of themselves first. And unfortunately, that can harbor feelings of resentment, which is kind of a big thing. And that is what blocks their flow. So the romantic. This gets a bad rap too sometimes. They all do in their own ways, but if you have this one, it's one of my favorites too. So they are called the inner hedonist, and they illuminate enjoying the pleasures of life. So the gift for this one is they are kind of more able to live in the moment. And of course, each of these personalities, when they're out of balance, it can go, you know, in a not great way. But when they're in balance, it's this enjoyment of experiences. They may find themselves spending money on things like food or, you know, and I'm not talking about like just basic food. I'm talking about like, this is your person who will go to Target instead of Walmart. This is your person who will upgrade something for like an aesthetic or a smell or so they'll spend money on like restaurants, that kind of thing. Whereas all of the other personalities will spend money on certain things, like the accumulator may get the non-name brand of food, if that makes sense. But they'll spend money on like clothes, toys, anything that really creates that sense of gratification and a sensory pleasure. So they're the person who will, oh, I'll do first class. Yeah, I'll pay the upgrade. Yeah, I'll pay the upgrade to not sit, you know, in the seat that I don't like. Whereas other personalities may not do that. Like they'd just be like, that is such a waste. Why would I do that? I would just deal with it because I'm saving $50. Money isn't often on the romantic's mind. I lovingly joke, except for like when they're swiping the card. So they can get themselves into precarious positions too in overspending. And their overspending is slightly different from the celebrity, whereas the romantic is doing it for the experience, whereas the celebrity may be doing it for the attention that comes from it for the show. So a little nuance, each behavior can be done, but it's going to be for totally different reasons depending on what your personality is. Yeah, so the romantic can find themselves able to save, but really typically it's only going to be for a thing that they want. So like, oh, we want a family trip to Disneyland. Let me save for that. They have the experience and then they find themselves starting over. Checking time, we are good. And I think this may even be the last one. And so I'm giving you guys just like a basic overview, and then I actually want to kind of talk about the dynamics between them, because you can have some inner conflict with which ones show up in your profile. So the ruler is the inner empire builder. And let's see, I'm totally missing the chat. I'm missing the good stuff. Okay, this totally resonates. Awesome. This inner empire builder, they illuminate a desire to achieve. They are your typical overachievers. If you see people out in business, these are your people who just like build a big business. They build an empire, and their motivation really, they may find themselves wanting to build an empire, not just for themselves, but to create a situation where they can hire other people. That's a thing that they really like to do when they build that empire. But really their motivating factor is the achievement. The money is the achievement. It's the success measurement. And the challenge for them is making sure that their sense of self-worth, their value, their worth, their lovability, their enoughness is not deeply attached, too deeply attached to the achievement, because an achievement can go away. A business can go away. But really their motivating factors are, okay, let's go get the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And the challenge, another challenge for them is when they do get the achievement, are they basking in it long enough to actually give themselves credit for the accomplishment that they've gotten? They are often very hungry for the next thing, and they can become very dissatisfied or really restless and wanting that new thing. So hopefully those have made sense. And I would actually love to open, can we open it up to questions? Cool. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure, I think, yes, okay. So I'm gonna stop screen share for just a minute. I wanna look through, okay. Can I share your results, Allie? Because I have your top 3. Cool. Okay, you're muted.
Sorry, I said yes. Let's share them. I don't know what my top 3 are.
Okay.
I have some guesses, but
okay. Well, let's guess. What do you think?
I think my first one was accumulator. I would guess that 2 and 3 are probably like ruler, and then like maybe nurturer.
Okay. Interestingly,
Or
in your quiz, it actually shows us accumulator and maverick and alchemist. How do you feel about that?
That was not what I would guess.
I think the first time you took it, I think it actually came back as ruler, which is super interesting.
That would make sense. I mean, I feel like, so it's been interesting because here's what happened. I feel like I am normally a ruler, but if people have taken my self-sabotage class, and we talk about, this will be going on YouTube, by the way, this like money threshold of like how much money you're willing to have in your bank accounts at all times. I hit my top threshold a couple of months ago, and then I was like, oh, now I don't need to work anymore. But I didn't realize that because I looked at my own accounts and they didn't look like I'd maxed out on my emotional cap of how much money I'm willing to have. And then I finally said to my husband, I was like, how much money are in our joint accounts? And he told me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I way overshot what I'm emotionally willing to have. Now I feel like I can just take a back seat, hang out, do nothing. Like, anyway, so it's been interesting because normally I feel like I really resonate with ruler, but since I maxed out on my self-sabotage, now I've just been like hanging out. I don't know. It's interesting.
Okay, I'm actually so glad that this came up because this is a common thing. And I kind of go back and forth. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've been paying attention to different people. And I was really curious what your new one would be, because I remembered that you were a ruler. The thing so we chatted previously, before anybody came in here, and Allie said something really insightful. She wasn't surprised about the accumulator because that's really how she was as a child. And so that's one of the things that we can do is we can look back and say, okay, what was like a motivating thing for me when I had money as a child? You know, what was I doing with my money? How was I behaving with it? And you can kind of see clues. What I've noticed is if someone, and I'm going to say this really broadly and generally, so hopefully people can kind of like interpret it and apply it to their life. If you have a money situation, so like a connector, typically wouldn't worry about money, right? Unless they have none and they're overly stressed about it. So if they're a connector and hyper focused on money, that is an out of balance experience for them. And so working through their money stuff can, you know, kind of get them to a different place. They might, and this is kind of a new view that I have of this because I've been seeing it more often and I've been kind of in it and observing. Some people can kind of like hyper focus on things. So like, I'm not a ruler, but people may actually look at me and think, oh, she's got to be a ruler because she's, you know, X, Y, and Z, right? Or like, is this making sense? I hope this is making sense.
So just how we are as children versus like our life experiences and how we present to the world versus like the inner core.
Yeah, because I have a question over here. It says, wait, wouldn't we go with the first result? And so in the SMA kind of coaching world, we typically say, yeah, like go with your first one. But what I'm actually noticing, just like other personality quizzes, you could be super hyper, like overdeveloped in a certain area, but it may not be how you would answer the questions. And if you were like in a more neutral space, does that make sense?
It does. Well, and as you're talking about Maverick, it's been funny because since like my self-sabotage thresholds with money, since I maxed out and like, so here's the thing, when I pay my taxes, I'm going to be like way back down again, you know, but right now I haven't paid my taxes yet. So I have like more money than my brain feels is necessary. It's like, oh, I've got a maid in the shade. Like I've maxed out on this like arbitrary numbers that I have set for myself for money. And now I do feel like a maverick. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I can spend money on that. I can spend money on that. But like rewind 2 years ago, like when I'm not feeling like I have enough money in the bank, I will not spend money on anything. Like no way, you know? And so, so I think it is really interesting how this showed up for me now, like taking it in a place where financially, you know, whether or not I actually am in a good financial space, my emotions feel like I am. Does that make sense? Like emotionally, my emotions are like, okay, we have enough regardless of the reality. And then that makes me a little bit more risky, you know, feeling, you know, I think I will always probably resonate the most with the accumulator because that is just my default setting to be like very, I don't know, I need to be self-sufficient and I need to make sure that there's always enough in the bank for our like basic needs. And that is an obsession. And I will always probably be like that. And I have been like that since I was a kid. But it's been interesting how I do feel like the ruler really, like when I was reading that, I was like, oh yeah, that's totally me too. But right now, because I feel like I have enough money, then I'm free to like go be risky and do weird choices that I would never normally make.
Right. And a ruler may not do that, right? They'd be like, oh, I got my thing. I got to go to the next one. If you're not resonating with the thing that you've gotten, I would, you know, and to anybody listening, I would do some self-reflecting and ask questions like, do I feel safe to do this? Like if a ruler is not accomplishing things, that's going to create some internal conflict, maybe some feelings of melancholy, some feelings of feeling like depressed, because, you know, they're not getting the kind of their currency. Each one of these personalities has a motivation. They have like a currency that's not money. It's just, you know. So another thing that I wanted to say, so talking about yours. So how this works is, so because you have the accumulator, the maverick, and the alchemist, inherently there's a little bit of friction there with the alchemist or the accumulator and the maverick, right? If your accumulator is appeased, then the maverick can come in and go, okay, what can we leverage to make more ROI? But if the accumulator is not okay, it's like, whoop, nope, closed shop, nada. The alchemist could have been playing out with like, oh my gosh, look at what they're doing with this money. Or like, oh, this is so much money. I shouldn't have this much money. What can I do that's good with this money? What can I do to help the world with this money? Right. And so it's important to look at all of these together and find places where they may be inner conflict. And we bring them all into balance. And that's how things really get moving and grooving and shifting. I will say that the bottom archetype is also important. And let me actually see if I still have it up. I'm curious, what do you think is your lowest?
My guess is celebrity.
You would be right.
Yeah, I'm like, this has no resonance with me.
You would be right. And the thing that I find is that is typically the one that people judge the most. As their lowest. They're like, oh no. And so I also see that is where we can dive into money beliefs and money blocks. Because if I'm sitting here and I'm judging someone who has the celebrity archetype and they're, getting all this attention, like with money, around money, I could judge that, but that blocks me too. Because that's not helping me. That's just bogging down my system.
Right. So would you say that part of this experience of figuring out your own money personality is and working through it is partially to like just let go of the judgments of all of these personalities so that you can embrace the good from all of them? Is that true? Is that what we're doing? Trying to find the good from all of them. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're totally fine. So yes. So I do a course around it that helps people kind of understand like how to work with what they've got going on. But yes, you're absolutely right. First and foremost, first step is what judgments do you have? And that's why I like not giving full results for people. I give them just their first so that they have enough to go, okay, yeah, that's me. But as they listen to the archetypes, money judgments just start coming up, right? So as you guys all listened, be brave. Did any of you have judgments towards any of the personality profiles or the personalities? I totally did.
Listening to you explain them, I feel like I've done a lot of work and I don't feel very judgy about money at this point. I say that at least, like I don't feel consciously judgy, but I'm sure there's still some little residuals. But I do have like some friends in like my real life where I notice that they complain about money all the time. And then they go and spend money on like things that I would never spend money on. They're like, we're so broke. We have nothing. And then they like go and spend like 3 weeks at Disneyland or something like that. And it's like, oh, what? Like, wait, what? You can't afford cat food, but you're at Disneyland for 3 weeks. But as you were explaining that romantic, I was like, oh, and like, this is why, like, it would never occur to me to think that way. But like some people, that's their default setting. Like, and so it was really good to kind of hear like, oh, and I don't know that I felt like necessarily judgy, but I felt very confused. That's what I would feel like. I just like, what's happening? Like, what, like maybe that is judgy, but for me, I've just been in like this space of like uncomprehension. Like I've just been like, this makes no sense. What is happening?
Yes. And so in general, it's nice to identify kind of like what you have going on, especially and I'm totally trying to keep track of time. So you let us know when you got to go.
Yeah.
So say you do like a Dave Ramsey course, but you're romantic and your spouse is a celebrity. How do you think that's going to go?
That would be rough, probably.
So what happens is if you don't know how to work with your personality, if you're not getting to the root of why you're handling the money the way that you are. So like a celebrity, they may be out of balance because they didn't get attention when they were a child. they didn't get the recognition. A romantic may be out of balance because they didn't get this like love that they were needing, this like, you know, or they were really, really poor. And so all they want is like some sort of luxury in their life. When you bring them into balance, they behave better in general. And so they bring gifts with them. So like as like a romantic come into an accumulator's life and be like, girl, let's go have a massage at a spa. And the accumulator is like, what? That's 3 meals. Why would I do that? It's like, because it helps you go into like a relaxed state. It helps you to flow, right? So we embrace all of the gifts. We all have all of them to a degree. And if we can love all of it, but then also embrace the gifts of our stronger ones, that's where we can really like harness our money gifts. So hopefully that makes sense. But like if the romantic or the celebrity try to do something really restrictive, and they don't work through the underlying things, it can actually cause them to binge spend in really bad ways, like really bad ways. And I've seen it. So.
Wow. And I think it's interesting about just like the childhood trauma and everything. Like, I feel like I've seen that, you know, in myself and in like the people that I know in real life, like coming from like a tough childhood and then having that play out with their money experiences. But then as they heal it, you know, healing up their emotional stuff, having a better money experience as well.
Totally.
I have a question from the chat, somebody else's question, but I thought it was a really good question. Okay, I'm not going to find it. It's something about families. She and her sister had the same result, and how much of this is generational or like familial. Do you have big thoughts on that?
I do. I would want to actually look at their full profile.
Oh, because they probably don't have the same everything, right?
Yeah. It's just like other like personality type things, like a little bit may be similar, but the rest may not. I personally have not found it to be like a conditioned thing. I have seen people come out, and like I've even observed it in my kids, they just were born that way. They just were born that way. And so that's kind of my opinion on it, but like take it with a grain of salt.
As you're saying that though, I was thinking like, you know, so people know about like my older disabled brother who died, but I have other siblings too. And we all have really different money personalities. I would say after watching this, I'm like, oh, because like my siblings make financial choices where I'm like, what, why? But just why would you do that? But I'm sure they are saying that about me too. And I'm thinking about my own kids, where my oldest is only 10, but already I posted on Facebook, he like has this ledger where he like keeps track of all of his Legos. He pretends his Legos earn money and spend it, and he tracks it. And it's like that, like, I can tell you some money types that would never do that. And like, so like, I'm sure he must be an accumulator as well. Right. And like pretty hardcore. Right. And he, in that way, I never taught him about bank keeping or anything like that. I didn't even buy him a ledger. He made it himself. Like he came up with that. And so, and no one taught him, and that's his default. And my other son will just spend money on the drop of a hat. Like he's just spending, but his big thing, he loves to look cool, you know? And so it is a top priority to him. And no one else in my family is like that. Like no one else cares about what we look like. And he's like, I really need green sunglasses and a bow tie, Mom. And I'm like, you're 5, but okay, like here's 12 bow ties, like knock yourself out.
I love that. Yeah. So hopefully this resonates with people. And I'm seeing a question or a comment. If you don't resonate with the full, you know, everything that was on the slide, that's totally okay. Hopefully you can kind of like understand the essence of the personality and kind of see where it plays out in your life. Every personality is not going to behave exactly the same. And that is where conditioning can come in. That is where the other stuff can come in. It's like, what flavor of the personality do you exude?
So we have to go in about 3 minutes. So before we go, I just want to hear a little bit more about your class and is this a class that ideally will not just help us like figure out our money personalities, but like work with them so that we can actually have a more financially stable existence. Is that the point?
Yes. Yes. So it's called Money Reboot. And it's actually, so I take the course that I certified in, and we use parts and pieces of that. But then I've also taken other things from just my own, subconscious coaching and energy work and stuff like that. And we give you practical tools and stuff. It was a bigger course, and I've actually packaged it down into something that's way more affordable. It's actually $47. When you take the quiz, it should give you a link to it.
Oh, awesome.
So super affordable. Honestly, there's an activity in it. It's called the I Am Money visualization. It is my favorite part of the whole thing. If you only did that, it would be worth it. We kind of get to the root of like how you're behaving according to your personality and what you can do with your profile to bring things into balance. We also do it in the frame of what does your spouse have? And where are you guys at odds with each other? And it's really just because, my opinion, you have different values, you have different goals. And if you can understand it and we give you language, it is hugely beneficial for couples. Couples can take it together. I don't charge extra. It's a 40-day money reset. We do money activities, and it really pushes people to get, like, we really bring up the different money stuff, and we do it together. The online stuff, you just can go through it, but I have a group that I lead every once in a while where people can go through the 40 days together, because observing the stuff that other people go through helps us recognize, oh, I totally didn't think about that, but I have that too.
Yeah.
So it's super cool. Hopefully that
Wow.
answered your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe I'm gonna go talk to my husband about that, because I feel like there is like a big disconnect. But like talking about it, I'm like, okay, I think he's a romantic and accumulator. Okay, I see some conflicts, like this makes sense. But working through that and being conscious of it. I mean, I've just sat here my whole life looking at other people and being like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't understand what is happening. And now I feel like I kind of get a little bit more of what is happening. And it's really exciting to hear that there's something that we can do about it. If both parties are willing to do something, and even if he's not, I could do something about it and just come into it with greater awareness. They'll make a big difference.
Yeah. And I know you've got 1 minute left.
I know.
And you can understand their motivation. So even if they don't take the course, you can meet their needs. We teach you how to meet their needs in a different way, not money.
Whoa, I'm glad you said that sentence before we had to go, because wow, that sounds so powerful. If we can meet our needs, our personality needs, without debt and without irresponsible spending or something, like that is a game changer. So wow, thank you so much for saying that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
So good.
And it's time. You've got to go.
It's true. Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for being here. I'll put this up on YouTube later. Thank you, Holly, so much. And Holly is in the Facebook group, so you can reach out and find her. And I'll put all the links below. And thank you so much. Have a great day, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks.